the Madman! Welcome to today's RASTAKHAN'S Rumble card review, and this is the final card review before the final card review. Wednesday we're seeing all the cards, I think. Some really interesting ones this time around, and I do mean that. But let's get started with a not so exciting one. The Beast Within for Hunter. 1 mana, give a friendly beast +1/+1, then it attacks a random enemy minion. A card meant to synergize with the beast theme that hunters have been getting. This card is multi-purpose in the sense that at the baseline, it's always at the very least +1/+1, and probably even at the very least, it's kind of like Rush. There's other uses for it too. If your minion is already on the board, you can attack face with it, and then you can play the Beast Within, and then it attacks a minion. You can attack a minion with it, and then you can play the Beast Within, and then attack another minion. Just got it confirmed also that you can play the Beast Within first, and then get the +1/+1 buff, and then it attacks a random enemy minion, and then you can even attack with it, which is not immediately obvious. Small bonus, you can even randomly attack a stealth minion, which might come into play if a lot of spirits are seeing play. Ultimately though, I don't believe that is strong enough to see play. Big and only hero card revealed. Zul'jin at 10 mana. Battlecry, cast all spells you've played this game, targets chosen randomly. And the hero power is also replaced with a, admittedly not too exciting, but functional, 2 mana, deal 2 damage. So obviously the power is entirely into the Battlecry part. And I was thinking, how good is the hunter ability to cast all spells you've played this game? And it turns out it's pretty good. These days you do have games that last that long. And there are 2 main decks that I would consider Zul'jin in. First is Spell Hunter, second is the Subject 9 Hunter. So let's cover Subject 9 Hunter first. You'll usually play Zul'jin when you've probably played about, somewhere between half and 2/3 of your cards, so like 15 to 20 cards in, which means you'd be expected to play about 4 secrets, a flanking strike, an animal companion, and a spellstone. That is play 7 cards and gain 5 armor. And the total amount of value of the mana costs there, if you discount flanking strike down from 4 to 2, because it might hit your own thing, and that's 17 worth of mana. So kind of like Ultimate Infestation, you're combining a lot of mana of value into 1 card here. And I do think it'll see play alongside Deathstalker Rexxar. And you do have the option of playing him before Deathstalker Rexxar, or even after Deathstalker Rexxar, because maybe Deathstalker Rexxar has given you enough value over time, and then you replace him with Zul'jin, and then you play out your remaining zombies. On the other side, with Spell Hunter, you have the secrets, you have the animal companion, you have the flanking strike, but you might also, on top of all that, get some secret plan, you might get some To My Side, which is like double animal companion. There you get crushing walls for sure, which always hits the opponent, by the way. It just turns out that Hunter has a lot of spells that only is beneficial to you. Notably, you might want to not run tracking, because Zul'jin might burn through your deck a little bit too fast, but tracking isn't even strictly bad because you're gonna just gain 1 card. And heck, half of the games, you'll even get a coin along with Zul'jin. Wow! Oh yeah, seems pretty good. Mage gets a new secret, Splitting Image. 3 mana, secret, when one of your minions is attacked, summon a copy of it. This has the potential for great value, and is probably why Kripparrian called this card
very good. I would rate this card 4 stars. It is a high power level card.
Splitting Image's problem is, even though the big potential is there, I just don't know how often the big potential will come to fruition. The dream that I originally thought of is, you play this on turn 7, and then you follow it up with the Lich King. And that's pretty good because it's a preemptive Molten Reflection on Lich King. People might argue Molten Reflection wasn't played. Well, that's because you couldn't set it up before you actually played your big card. Now, the main problem with setting that up is, other than the Lich King, I couldn't think of very many cards that you would want to Splitting Image. Furthermore, even when you play the Splitting Image and then the Lich King, problem is the Lich King could just get spelled out of the game. So ultimately, because of the lack of too many big cards that are value, it's just not worth running Splitting Image for that type of deck. And the other problem is, if you're a big control deck, this is probably the only secret you actually want to run in the deck, so people will know it's Splitting Image. Kirin Mage can play Splitting Image, and then when Kirin Mage is attacked, you get a 4-3, or when one of your minions is attacked. Main problem is Tempo Mage is currently terrible and will probably still be terrible. Therefore, I don't see Splitting Image in either the Tempo or the Control deck. While this kind of effigy-like card is cool and seems like it has a lot of potential, just like Effigy, actually, I just don't think it'll actually see play. Rogue gets Bloodsail Howler, 2 mana 1/1 Rush Pirate. The Battlecry gain +1/+1 for each other pirate you control. My initial instinct on this one is, oh man, that is so bad. Captain Hooktusk certainly doesn't belong in the same deck as Bloodsail Howler, because Captain Hooktusk summoning Bloodsail Howler would be a complete disaster. You'd be getting a 1/1 pirate, which already rushes anyways. But Bloodsail Howler just might thrive in the following situation. Imagine this: you're even rogue, your turn 1 is to dagger up, your turn 2, you play the Shark Fin Fan, and then you attack with your dagger, thus your board is a 2/2 and a 1/1. And then on turn 3, you attack with your dagger, your board is a 2/2, 1/1, 1/1 pirates, and then you play Bloodsail Howler as a 4/4 rush, and then you re-dagger up. Like, that's a really good start. But unfortunately, it requires you to have both Shark Fin Fan as well as Bloodsail Howler, which is not very likely. I think if you're playing a pirate deck, it shouldn't be too difficult to make sure that Bloodsail Howler is a 3/3 rush. So I ordinarily was just going to dismiss this card, but depending on how good the pirates are, this card actually might see play. We'll see if that pirate rogue deck is going to be a thing. Priest gets Mass Hysteria, 5 mana spell, force each minion to attack another random minion, and also force Trump to run simulations for like an hour to see just how good this card is. So I ran the simulation so you didn't have to. In short, the card is good when your opponent has many minions out and they're around the same power as each other. Notably bad is Mass Hysteria is terrible when your opponent has 1 minion because it can't be played, when your opponent has 2 minions because then they attack each other exactly, but there's probably not another attack because one will just kill the other. And then like around 4+ minions, and now we're talking. And notably bad against boards which have low attack and high health values, such as a post-Hadronox Taunt Druid board. Certainly, we're not going to be removing Psychic Scream and Control Priest and replacing it with Mass Hysteria. The question is whether or not we also run Mass Hysteria. And I think as this is a good card against aggro starts, Mass Hysteria will be included in these Control Priest decks. Great against aggro decks on turn 5, pretty much always does a good amount of damage to wide boards. Serves a similar purpose to Brawl and Light Bomb, but I'd say overall worse than those cards. But another good Priest tool, which will make surviving as Priest just a little bit easier. The Warrior Spirit has been revealed. It's Spirit of the Rhino, 1 mana 0/3. Usual stealth for 1 turn. Your rush minions are immune the turn they're summoned. So the ideal for this card is you're playing it alongside a rush card on the first turn, and then you play another rush card the turn after, thus giving 2 rush minions immune. Even better than that is if you've used your rush minions to kill off the opponent's minions, maybe Spirit of the Rhino stays around, and then you can even play more rush minions, which are still immune, and then you just run the board. The dream is you play this alongside a Kali, and get something like Darius, and then next turn you play Darius, and then you kill something, and Darius doesn't even take any damage. I feel like this fits into the mid-range rush deck, and even though this card does work with Dr. Boom Matt Genius's Mech Rush, and it does work with the Boom Ship, I don't think Spirit of the Rhino is great with either of those cards, because by the time you're playing Dr. Boom Mad Genius, or by the time you're playing Boom Ship, usually your plans have already worked and you don't need Spirit of the Rhino to drive it home. Finally, last, and certainly not least, a card that if Custom Hearthstone had revealed, I would be like, Blizzard would never print a card like this. It's Mojo Master Zehi. 6 mana 5/5 Battlecry, set each player to 5 mana crystals. Yep, Blizzard went there. What a disruptive card. What an awesome card. People have compared this with Loatheb, and yes, I kinda get the comparison. It disrupts the opponent. So it's a Loatheb type card, yes, but where this is different than Loatheb is, say you're playing against a combo deck, Loatheb will delay your demise by 1 turn, and maybe Loatheb will be played earlier to stop their spreading plague by turn. But where Mojo Master Zihi is played is before the turn that you think they're going to win, and they're set back all the way down to 5 mana crystals, making the assumption that they need to win with 10 mana. They will go back to turn 6. So instead of winning the game, they're at 6 mana, then they're at 7 mana, then they're at 8 mana, and then they're at 9 mana, and then they're at their original 10 again. So you delay their win by 4 turns, which is hopefully enough to kill them. Which is why I think that Control will probably not run this. Even with 4 extra turns, Control probably can't kill combo in that time. But in mid-range, I think that's where this card goes. I'm not entirely sure about aggro, because aggro really wants to kill you by the time you get to 10 mana. And the combo decks usually lose to aggro anyways. Mojo Master Zihi is notably really good against Druid also. They spend their turn 2 Wild Growthing, turn 5 Nourishing. They have a 3 mana head start on you. They're about to get to 10 mana worth to cast you know what. You slam down your Mojo Master Zihi because you've only reached 6 mana, and you reset down to 5 mana, thus negating their Wild Growth and their Nourish. The card does not give you 5 full mana crystals. In other words, if you play this on 6, you will not get 5 more mana. That would be ridiculous. And if you play this on 10, you're going to have 4 mana left. The small downside of this card, which is why, and also why this card won't just be fit into every deck, is technically you're giving the opponent an advantage. They will get to 6 mana first, so you'll always trail the opponent, and of course it's 6 mana 5/5, but you're paying 2 extra mana for the ability. And I think this ability is disruptive enough that it is certainly worth the 2 mana cost in the right place against the right decks. And there's some really interesting combo type applications here as well. Shudderwalk, and then permanently set the opponent at 5 mana crystals. No, that's not necessary. I think that's a bad idea, but you know, just pointing it out. You could try to bounce Zihi and then replay her again. I think that's a little bit overkill, since you do need to still win against fellow mid-range and aggro players. Not worth really disrupting your deck that much. By 1 card with Mojo Master Zihi, yeah, sure, I guess. But with multiple cards supporting Zihi, probably not worth. There's also the idea of Dead Man's Hand, putting in Mojo Master Zihi. Dead Man's Hand was only really weak against combo decks, and it could usually grind out control decks, and it had a decent matchup against aggro decks. Is this the missing link that'll make Dead Man's Hand always win against combo? Since combo will never have more than 6 mana crystals, or 7 if you're counting on like every 2 turn cycle of Zihi. Could be interesting. And finally, to wrap it up, no, your Surrender to Madness deck will still not work. Stop trying. So looking forward to tomorrow, to Wednesday, where all the cards are going to be revealed, or at least a big majority of them in the big reveal stream.